unscripted, unprompted. This was just an idea that I thought of I think a week back, and I thought that I might as well give you guys my 5 favorite non-hip-hop albums of the mid-year of the year 2020. I like all types of music. I thought this is a fun way to sort of just share what I've been listening to for the past couple of months up until the mid-year. So without further ado, let's just get into it. My 5 mid-year non-hip-hop albums. Number 5, I have Amazarashi with Boycott. I've been listening to Amazarashi for a while now, I think ever since 2016. I know him from the Game of Laplas ending, and though I haven't watched that anime admittedly, I do love his sort of dark and sort of honest style in Japanese rock, Japanese pop. There's not much difference in terms of what he's being put out. I do say that a couple of his project is a bit long-winded. This was close to that, but it just kept my attention enough to listen to the album from start to finish without being bored by it. I thought some of the singles that came out of this is beautiful. I think with the landscape of like Japanese rock and Japanese pop, especially in the sort of anime department, sometimes it can get a bit too, I don't want to sound pretentious, but a bit too happy or a bit too dishonest with their joy. I think with Amazarashi, he pulls off a lot of emotions of just pure sadness, or rather deliver it in a very appealing way to the masses, I would say. So yeah, Amazarashi with Boycott, and I think it's some of his best works to date. I encourage you guys to listen to it. Number 4, I have Cave Town with Sleepyhead.
You and me, we can make this whole a home.
I'm starting to get really into the sort of a quiet and arguably lo-fi sort of indie rock. I discovered Cave Town out of nowhere, actually. I know he's very well established in the sort of indie rock world, and little that I know, he is sort of affiliated with Sidney Gish, which if you haven't listened to the album No Walking Dogs, hang on, let me double check real quick. No Dogs Allowed. If you haven't checked No Dogs Allowed by Sidney Gish, definitely check that album out. I think it's one of the best indie rock albums I've ever heard in my entire life. When I heard Cave Town, Sleepyhead, I think is just a very somber, serene indie rock album. He doesn't have much range, at least from how I hear it, but I think he just delivers it with a lot of wholesome emotion or wholesome cadence and whatnot. And yeah, if you're looking for some mellow, quiet indie rock album to sort of soothe yourself to, definitely check this out. I highly recommend it. I especially love the track Things That Make It Warm. Things That Make It Warm? Yeah. And I also like the track, I keep forgetting my tracks here, I Miss My Mom. I thought that was a very endearing, this album is very somber and very wholesome, and I really like that about Cave Town. So yeah, Cave Town, Sleepyhead, please check it out. Number 3, I have Beach Bunny with Honeymoon. I discovered Beach Bunny, funny enough, in a Reddit post. I heard the Prom EP, or the EP that has Prom Night, whatever that track is, I forgot from the top of my head, and the single Sports. I fell in love with their young-spirited indie rock. Beach Bunnies really captured the sort of unique teen indie spirit in all of their songs, talking about insecurities, unpopularity, moving too fast, growing up. I think it's because of the vocals. I'm gonna put the name of the vocalist right here because I can't remember from the top of my head right now. I think her voice and her sincerity really encapsulate the teen emotions that's been going through from generations to generations to generations. They knocked it out of the park. I was really excited to hear this album and sort of what kind of sound they were going for. They didn't change a lot, admittedly, but I think with what I've got and what they're good at, they delivered it beautifully. They delivered it with a lot of energy, with a lot of sincerity of their sort of teen and growing up emotions. And yeah, I can't wait for their future and what they're gonna do now. And yeah, give a listen to it. Beach Bunny, Honeymoon. Number 2, I have The Strokes with the new Abnormal. After 7 years, we finally got a new Strokes album, and I think this is one of their best works to date. Does it beat Room on Fire? I don't think so. I think it's interesting on the premise of the sound that they use for their comeback. To me, one of the most riskiest, I guess, comeback albums I've heard in a very long time. I think they experimented with their sounds a bit here, especially with the track The Door. Sorry, not The Door, At the Door. I'm not remembering my tracks today. I don't know why the fuck am I doing like this. The fact that Rick Rubin worked on this album with them is a very interesting sort of backstories, and you could kind of tell the sort of layered or rocky but yet sort of electronic elements into it. Yeah, this is one of their best albums, one of the greatest comeback albums I've heard in a very long time, and easily one of their most unique, I guess, hence the title, The New Abnormal. Yeah, I've been listening to this album nonstop, and I don't think I'm gonna stop listening to this album until the year ends. And my number 1 non-hip-hop album of 2020. If you know me, you kind of already guessed the number 1 spot, but I'm just gonna say to you, my number 1 album, my number 1 non-hip-hop album of 2020 is The Weeknd's After Hours. I've been following Abel Tesfaye, aka The Weeknd, for a bit now. Not saying I've been following him since the trilogy, but I've known like his name floating around for a bit now. And when Beauty Behind the Madness popped him off to a mainstream and sort of legend R&B status, I've never been a fan of R&B, which is funny because arguably hip hop now is more R&B driven than any other decades of hip hop. I think what's so interesting about The Weeknd is the topics, brutally honest imagery of like relationships, brutally honest imagery and tones of breakups. I think what I meant to say is he doesn't give you any bullshit on the sort of feelings and emotions that he's given to you. If he's on drugs, he's on drugs. If he, for a lack of better term, if he is a pimp, he's a pimp. If he's in like weeping mode of heartbreaks and sort of emotions, he's in that. And I think After Hours is that emotion because allegedly most of this album is about his ex-girlfriend Bella Hadid. I think this might be my favorite album from his. Okay, this is my favorite album from his, but not my favorite project. That still goes to Echoes of Silence. With After Hours, he pulls off a lot of great instrumentals and arrangements here, and he does a lot of like 80s comeback sentiments here, especially on the track Blinding Lights or Hardest to Love. His vocals are shimmering as always. You get a feeling of like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas a lot here. There's so many tracks that I absolutely love in this album, and I think every day ever since it came out I've been listening to it nonstop, and I think it's just a blend, a beautiful blend between the sort of slow and take your time sort of Weeknd, and then you have the newer sort of Weeknd with a lot of that trappy feel into it, but there's also this sort of new 80s like Starboy-ish Weeknd. Yeah, this is a great like best of all of the worlds of Abel Tesfaye, aka The Weeknd, bundled up into one. It's a great album of like highs and lows, in the sense of like he feels, you know, powerful in the beginning, then he feels absolutely broken because he just broke up. But then when you break up, you kind of have the feeling of like, yeah, I can take on the world, but then you kind of like, you're just weeping and whatnot, and that's what I feel with this album. So yeah, my number 1 mid-year non-hip-hop album of 2020 is The Weeknd with After Hours. And yeah, I hope you like this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to comment on your favorite non-hip-hop albums of the mid-year of 2020. Don't forget to share this video if you like this video, and don't forget to follow my Instagram for more content. Yep, that's it from me. I'll see you guys soon, and stay safe. Peace.